Richard, are you excited that we're doing the festival at the Hilton?
Beyond. Not just for the festival, but that we're doing everything at the Hilton. We're staying there. The festival's there. I'm going to go to the bar there. I'm going to have breakfast there. It's like one-stop shop.
Yay! It's actually the Hilton Melbourne we're staying in, I think.
I'm very excited.
And guests can also stay there too.
They sure can. They can call. You have to call. The number's down below. And then you use the guest code WOLFHEART to unlock exclusive savings for that weekend.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see everybody there.
It'll be fun. See you soon.
Check the links below or call 321-768-0200 and use code WOLFHEART when booking to unlock exclusive deals for our festival guests.
It's the Wolf Media Festival Podcast. Today's guests. From the film Somewhere in Montana, actor Matt Drago. And now, here's your hosts, Kyle Hollingsworth, Richard Wilmore, and Jack Quellen Wolfhart. But first, a clip from Somewhere in Montana.
Welcome to my ranch.
Let's get first team in here. First team.
Bob tells us they're making a movie out to your place.
Yeah, I guess everybody knows.
Holy cow, Barb.
Cut! Mike, call a break! Damn it!
Everybody'd like to have your attention. It's time to freak out.
Where the hell do you get off interrupting my shoot? Where the hell do you get off punching the actors?
What the hell was that, Dad?
Just setting a tone.
What am I supposed to do that will make him respect me?
Give it a shot, John. You might wind up liking the kid.
What about him should I like? He doesn't respect me, and he doesn't respect my way of life.
Why does everyone in this town have to be so in your face?
Bob. Trust me, John. Trust your daughter.
Best known for his role in the Wolf Media Festival award-winning film Somewhere in Montana, which was released in theaters January 10th. He has also appeared in a variety of other projects, including Disney's Counting Scars viral video, What Would Jesus Do? The Journey Continues, Ridley Scott's Prophets of Science Fiction, and the popular audio drama podcast No Other Way. We're thrilled to have and welcome Matt Drago. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Richard, Kyle. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Oh, thanks for being here.
Of course.
I just realized that I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name. Did I do it right?
You did. There's two different pronunciations. Drago is like Rocky IV. He's the Russian, and I'm a Sicilian guy, so Drago. So Drago, Drago,
Okay,
but
good.
I hear both, and it doesn't bother me at all.
You did it.
Okay, good. Yay.
Awesome.
I have a question about releasing films. Yours just came out on the 10th in theaters. I don't think we've ever asked on this podcast, like, how does that work? Like, what do you mean release? Like, where does it go? How does it get there to theaters?
Yeah, there's
Please describe.
100%.
The step-by-step process.
100%. And I mean, honestly, there's no clear path. That's the reality of it. It's a completely, open world medium right now with most people, watching things on streaming platforms or VOD. So the way that Brandon Smith, the writer or the director of Somewhere in Montana, wanted to do it is he wanted to do a regional run. He's hoping to get it into as many regional theaters as possible. We actually just went to Rocky Mountain NATO, which is like a CinemaCon. It's a convention full of theater owners. And I was one of the only actors there. And it was really special to meet people that have had theaters that have been in their families for generations and generations, dating back to their grandparents, their great-grandparents. I mean, some people that owned drive-ins. And he really wants this to be a conversation piece. So it was really important for him to get the film into as many theaters as possible. And sometimes that starts with your grassroots theater owners. So we screened the movie there. It did really well. People really liked it. They liked the messaging of it. And, that's to try to broker a deal with a bigger theater chain so that way it can have a wider release in theaters.
Tell everybody about the film.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Tell us about it.
It's like you guys have done this before.
It's like you're here to promote it.
Right? It's a story of the times. I play Fabian Verdugo. He's a West Coast director, and he's very obsessive and passionate about his dream, which is to tell a couple good stories before he leaves the planet. And honestly, like that's sort of me as Matt too. So this role really hit home pretty quickly. And then John Alexander, played by my wonderful friend Graham McTavish, he plays a Montana rancher, just somebody that lives that simple life and has a legacy that is also incredible. But it's central to his ranch, and we need each other. We're thrown into a situation where he needs the money from my film, and I need his ranch as a location, and we're basically two people that probably would not ever be in the same room together. And that's kind of where the conversation piece starts. We're from two different worlds, and I'm the outsider and I'm thrust into his world. And, we butt heads. We are not anywhere close to alike, and we're trying to figure things out, but we work through that. And there are definitely some twists and turns in the film, but that's basically the premise of the film. I think that it focuses a lot on legacy and what we hold dear. And I think that's a really big thing to focus on right now. I think when we look through the mask of people on social media and cancel culture and a lot of things, like we just have to try to let people in a little bit more. And working with Graham was really special. We really talked through our scenes. We have a 10-page scene that's actually just the two of us, which is very rare in modern cinema. And we really wanted it to be as authentic as we could. Just two guys talking. And I think people really in this day and age don't understand that you don't have to agree on everything, and you never will. But that doesn't mean that you can't find something that I think is the most powerful thing, and really the most powerful form of love, which is respect. And that's what this film really speaks to.
At the end, podcast over. That was a good one. Good answer.
I got way more. Let's go.
I was going to ask you, you strike me as someone who feels very clear about who they are. And I'm curious, did you know from a very young age about, like, this is what I want to do? I want to be an actor. I know you're also a singer. How did you know? When did you know? What lit up that interest?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's not a time that I didn't feel it, didn't want it, didn't have it in me. Acting has always been just kind of a passion, but I think it's always come from the place with me where I feel like it can affect change. Stories like this are something that I've always dreamed of being a part of. Conversation starters, stories that make you go inward and force you to be introspective and maybe discern things in your own life that maybe you could do better, or maybe a relationship that's on the rocks that like you could kind of work through. And I think we need stories, and I never thought I'd be saying this day and age, but with AI coming, I mean, we need human stories. We need stories that are written and made and acted in with real tears and real emotions, by real people. And this was really a special film. I tell people this all the time. It's kind of something that I've always dreamed to be a part of, because the cast and the crew, we became a family. We were so close through the whole process. We would go on hikes together. I would get dinners with Graham. We would talk through like really deep conversations. Michelle Hurd and I, really, really wonderful conversations. And we just supported each other. It's almost like we all needed this film in a really unique way. Different places, different people in different parts of their lives, but we really came together, and we felt pretty early on that this was a story that was bigger than all of us, and we wanted to tell it proudly. And I think we really accomplished that. And it really, it was a really magical experience, and one that I've always dreamed to be a part of. And that's kind of where I caught the bug. And now, as you can see, it's like, it's alive and well in my spirit and soul. And I can't wait to tell more good stories like this one.
You mentioned before that you and your co-star had a 10-page dialogue. Can you kind of break that down for people? Like, how many minutes of film is that? And what does that take to memorize all of that dialogue?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was the breath in the scene because you don't want it to become a talk piece, and like the way that Graham and I wanted to really do it is like a conversation like we're having right now, just very authentic. We're reading each other. We're trying to figure each other out. I think that's kind of where we started from. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual meat and bones of the scene, it goes into everything. Like we were joking about politics, it goes there. We were talking, religion, just kind of what's happening in the world. And it's it's a really powerfully written scene. It's really the scene that made me fall in love with the film. And I think it's a really unique experience when the director, Brandon Smith, is also the writer of the film. So we were able to collaborate on it in many ways because Brandon wrote himself essentially into these two characters. He is a Montana, guy now, but he's also a director. And so the two lead characters are sort of a schism of him in a sense. And so there was a lot of real just knowledge I was able to glean from just working with him and Graham. And yeah, the scene is powerful. And I think that it's done, like I said, very organically. I don't think it's meant to be overly this or that. It's just we wanted people to, from the outside, see two guys having a conversation and starting to let each other in. I think that's kind of the start of where we need to go within our society right now, is just trying to get past that initial knee-jerk reaction and let each other in. Because once you do that, you can really see the person a lot clearer. And then you kind of get to the point where, yeah, you don't have to agree with everything, but you find ways to find mutual respect for one another.
You speak so eloquently. I love it.
I love this film. I mean, honestly, I really do. And again, thank you for having me on the show because I do say all the time, it's a word of mouth film. It's like, you tell two of your friends to tell two of your friends. I mean, this is an indie. We don't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget. So you guys are part of sharing this story. So I really do, thank you guys for having me on today.
Of course. And did you shoot the whole film or the majority of it on location in Montana?
Yes. So the whole film was shot in Polson, Montana. It's a beautiful town set on Flathead Lake. As I say it, I just like glean because I woke up and drank my coffee every day and like looked over beautiful Flathead Lake and the mountains. And you want to talk about like a place to just kind of like find your art. There's no other place than Polson, Montana. I actually personally want to buy a place there someday, just because it really does put you at peace. So there were a few locations that we used around the town. The main location was an active cattle ranch. It's a real cattle ranch. It's been like it actually is. It's been in the family for generations. So that was the main part of our location, and we used the main house, we used the barn, we used the fields, we used different locations within that location, and then we would use the town, for the bar scene and different scenes like the barber shop, the church. We would use little places around town, and just like what a special experience, because there were people like when Graham and I would be getting breakfast at Betty's Diner, like that people would be talking about the film being made while we were making it. And it just kind of was like very motivational. And, I'll skip ahead to the end, but when we had our premiere, there were a lot of people that came up to me, and a lot of the same feedback was that it was really important for them to see a film that spoke to their little corner of the world. Like that meant a lot to them. From someone that's, lived in New York City and now in LA, we have a lot of those movies, and that's not a bad thing. But I think it really is important to speak to these, smaller corners of our country, right? And make them feel like they have a voice, because I think that's created a lot of the dissonance in our country. So that was one thing that really spoke to me as Matt, as a person, that just it meant a lot to to have them come up to me and say, listen, it's really important and meaningful that we have a film now that's about our little corner of the world.
Oh, I love that.
I will tell you, I grew up in a really small town of 600 people in northern Wisconsin. And in like 1920 or something, there was a movie made in that town. And people still talk about that there was a movie made in that town. Like, it was life changing for that little community to like have their 15 minutes of fame. So what you like, you don't even know the lasting effects that you probably had on that town. Had you ever been on a ranch and around farm animals before?
I mean, not that I will say intimately, not to give anything away, but I mean, it is an active cattle ranch. So there were parts of that I felt like I needed to be around there for. And I did. I went up a week early. It was part of kind of my process. We all have different processes as actors, but for me, it was to take as much of it in as possible. And that was really being around the environment. So I will say, yes, I've been on one before, but definitely never like that. To answer your question, it's definitely a different world, but I felt like it was important for me to take that in because at the end of the day, I think one thing that we miss right now in our modern society is that we need each other a lot more than we think we do. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, one thing or another. I mean, but like in this situation, like if you are a meat eater, right, it's like, like a lot of people like wouldn't be able to do what those people do on the cattle ranch, and everybody has a place in our society, and we have to just kind of like try to honor that as much as possible. So yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. It's something that I took in, but yeah, Polson, Montana. It was a really beautiful ranch. We actually became friends with the people that owned the ranch. They would, make us eggs, Graham and I, in the morning. We would play with their grandkids. I mean, I really can't say enough about the experience. And I say this all the time because I think people don't necessarily believe me, but like actors like take so much of like the experience as the win. A lot of times, like we don't have necessarily all the control in the world with how the movie ends up doing. But I feel like I've already won. And I really do mean that in terms of just the experience that I had being around so many great actors, so many great people. The crew was incredible. I became so close with so many of the crew members. And it really was. It was like a real kumbaya movie where we just came together despite our differences and made something which I truly believe is really beautiful.
I imagine going into a town like that. I mean, there's I'm thinking about it from the small town perspective, having been raised in a small town, like, wow, how amazing that would be to have a film shot there. Right. But for you to just be able to plug in to that smaller, more contained world, and just really sink into being in that community, I can see how that would be very enriching, just in addition to and on top of the acting and the role itself. So it's really nice. Thank you for sharing.
100%. Well, and it's funny because, I did that even with my drive up. I decided not to fly out to Montana. I really wanted to make the drive. And Brandon actually jokingly called it the Fabian Freedom Tour because I did. I drove my car out of Los Angeles, much like, Fabian making the journey. And I went to Vegas for a couple nights. Ironically, because my family is from New York, Mad Apple, the show at New York, was opening that same weekend. So I got to like walk the red carpet at Mad Apple and like meet some of the performers and get very teary-eyed because there's some really amazing moments in that show. And then from there, I went straight to Zion and I hiked the Crystal Lakes. And I felt like it brought me back. It's like that transition between our complex world in the city and letting that go. And I felt like that was really important for me to drive up there. And so, I took the car, and it was a good thing that I did because I did drive Michelle and Graham and a lot of other castmates around in my car, but I would not go off road in it because my car would not. It's not built for that. We'll just say that. But yeah, I ended up in Zion, and I mean, my gosh, I think I hiked till like 9:30 at night. It was getting dark. I was like, oh crap, I gotta get back. Like I really took in Zion. I went up to Utah, and I just really took my time just driving through the country and just listening to music, and just when I got to Montana, that whole thing started all over again, because I think a lot of this film is trying to understand a world that's not yours and appreciate it. And so I found myself like appreciating Vegas, but also appreciating just being in nature by myself, and like literally sitting underneath a waterfall and like looking at the mountains for a half an hour. I can't tell you the last time I've done that, and I think that's part of why this role is a difficult one. I got a really wonderful comment from my friend John Shimke, who is the editor, and he said, your role is the hardest of the film, in my opinion, because I'm kind of all over the place. I'm fighting with so many entities, like we all are in life, like with investors that are trying to pull the money to the film that like is like my legacy piece, to a rancher that I've paid for his location, but he's creating dissonance with me, and there are all these obstacles that I'm feeling. But I feel like because you shoot out of order, you really have to figure out where you are as an actor, like based on where the story is. So I felt like my energy actually had to change throughout the story, because my character does soften at a certain point. But in the beginning, he's wound up, he's against the clock. And so I think taking that trip for me gave me that, like, Vegas, like, kind of like, let's go, like, kind of thing, to just really looking at the mountains and being back in nature. And it just kind of set me up for this like place in my life where I felt so open to this role. And my acting teacher said this. He said, at a certain point, you can just forget the name Fabian Verdugo, just be Matt, because Matt's enough. And that's hard to do sometimes. Like there are roles that hit you a little bit more, I would say, like they're closer to home, right? And there's a lot of Fabian that it's probably the first role that I've ever truly fell in love with. I just really did. I gravitated towards him, and I think I even realized it when I was shooting the film, how much like I am very much like him in many ways. We have some differences, but I am very hyper focused on my legacy and leaving a couple good stories behind. That's why I got into acting, because I think there's nothing better than telling a great story and hopefully having it mean something and move people. And as I started shooting this film, I realized, like, over and over again, like this was a role that I'm grateful for. This was a role that was meant for me, because I didn't even realize it until I started shooting. And that's something that you have to give yourself as an actor, because it's so hard to, book the job or whatever. That's the way that you look at it sometimes. But sometimes when you feel like a role has found you and it's given something to you in your life that you needed, it becomes this really special, incredible thing. And that's the way I felt. And it came from the people that I was around, and the cast and the crew. Again, like, those relationships to me are the win. And I hope that people see that when they see the film.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Of course.
That leads into the question I wanted to ask, of like the kind of backstory of how you got this film, like how you found the script, how all that works. If you had to audition 17 times, like how did this all come together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't actually talked about it in many podcasts. So this is great. Roles can come in all different shapes and forms. They can come in a, audition from your agent and casting director that's seen you before. This one was very unique. This was a friend that I actually worked with at a steak restaurant locally in Santa Clarita, California, the high-end dining steak restaurant. And her and her husband were originally from Montana. And I've just always been the kind of actor person that, like, if somebody that is a friend of mine needs something, like, I try to help out. And she didn't have an agent at the time, and so I said, call my agent. And I believe that she's actually still with that agent right now, and she got a couple great auditions from it, and we just became friends, just trying to help each other out, because I do think that this industry is cyclical, right? Like, you lift each other up, and there's going to be highs and lows, but I really like to pay it forward whenever I can. So I always joke with her and her husband moved back to Montana at the end of 2019, right before the world shut down. And about a year and a half later, she called me up and, I was like, hey, Zuzu, what's going on? And she said, I have a friend named Brandon and he wrote this script. And every time I read it, I see your face. Every time I read it, I read the lead character, I see your face. And, that's just people looking out for each other. And it was so sweet. I mean, I still kind of tear up thinking about it because it was just her reaching out to me saying, like, I think like this would be a really great role for you. Because I was not on the radar. I did not have really any connections to any local casting directors in Montana. I really had no other way other than this really small shot in the dark to even get my audition tape to the powers that be, Brandon, Eden, Joe, the producers and the director of the film. And I just went down to Sherman Oaks and went to my acting coach and said, let's put this on tape and see what happens. And we put that one scene on tape, and it's funny because now that everything's on tape, you as an actor, you're kind of like, okay, well, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again. And we did it the first time, and my acting teacher just made this face, and he was like, and I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, you're good. Like, I wouldn't tell you to do it any other way. Like, I wouldn't adjust anything. I just feel like you have a very clear take on this character. And I can tell, like, this character means something to you. And if you do it over and over again, you're just going to get in your head. I just think that you should just send this one out and see what happens. And I did. And then a couple weeks went by, and, you let things go as an actor. You don't expect, like, you really honestly, like, I mean, I've talked to many successful actors, like, the joy is the audition. That's the way you really have to look at it. I tell young actors this all the time. It's like, enjoy the audition. Like, that's your opportunity to act. You have no control after that. Like, just enjoy the fact that you got to bring yourself to a character today, and you got a chance to act, right? Because you love acting, right? So if you love it, then the audition is the win. And you never know where that goes. Maybe you're not right for that part, but you get in for another one. Anyway, for this one, a couple weeks went by, and I got reached back out to by Brandon and Eden, and they wanted to put me, on a Zoom call like this, and go through the scene together and kind of work it a few times. Ironically, I was out of town. I was at my mom's house. I was like, Mom, be quiet. Like, I'm in the other room. Like, this is like this is like a producer session. And she's like, what's a producer session? I'm like, Mom, just please, like, and I'm worried about, like, I'm in Virginia. And so I'm sort of like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, shh, and I'm like worried that the internet's going to cut out, da, 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 da. But I found myself in that, that producer session, really talking to them about the story and the role, and really just being curious about it. Like, because again, I was talking to the person that brought the story into existence, and what a gift, right? Because you're not always in the position where you're in that position where you're literally talking to the person that wrote those characters and wrote that story, right? So for me, it was like, I remember most of that audition, us talking like we're doing right now, like just having a conversation. And yeah, we ran the scene a couple times, and I felt good about it, but like I was just more like really inquisitive about the whole project and the story and what it had to tell and everything. And so again, a few weeks went by and let it go again. Actually, that might have been a couple months. It might have been like more like a month and a half. And I got a call from the casting director, my friend Jared Brocksterman, up in Montana. And he called me up and he said, listen, Matt, we got about 5,000 submissions for this. And, we called back about a dozen people. And unfortunately, we had to, tell all the others that they didn't get the role, and the role of Fabian Verdugo is yours.
Yay!
And it was like,
you're like,
really,
I'm sorry, I'm busy. Goodbye.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was like this moment where, like, I feel like I was like inquisitive to like sad to like maybe a little bit more inquisitive to elated to like pure joy, like in like 1 second. Like I just went all over the place, and I think it's I think it's one of those things sometimes too, when you get a role, and this is missed on a lot of people. I think about Ariana Grande recently because she did this when she got Glinda. I don't know if you've seen that tape. And the first thing that she said is, "I'll take such good care of her." You
Oh,
know, when she got the role of Glinda, and that's how I felt honestly when I got the role. Like I took that moment of pure, celebration, and happiness and joy. But then, I feel like when like I hung up the phone, it was like, okay, Matt, let's get to work. Like because like then the work begins. Like then you have a story to carry, and again, because it was in many ways a story that Brandon Smith was telling of himself. I felt like this real responsibility to tell it well and to tell it proudly, and to really do everything that I could. When I wrapped, I said to Brandon, I said, I just really hope that I gave you everything that you needed, and I think that's the actor's job at the end of this. And I mean, it was a really hard role to wrap on because it became such a big part of me and my life. And what actually is really cool about it is it's kind of perpetuated me in my own life as Matt to reach out to my next thing, which is that, I also now really want to make films and I really want to speak to pockets of the country. So when I tell Brandon this all the time, I mean, like, you gave me this role of a lifetime, like it will live with me forever. Like it's actually like perpetuated me to start my own production company and to, also do kind of what Fabian did and to give voices to people that feel voiceless sometimes and to tell stories that matter, human stories that matter, and to really try to focus on those little pockets of the country that feel like they don't always get like the spotlight shown on them. And so it's a role that lives on with me now and forever.
that's exciting. And you're in development for your first feature film through your production company, right?
Yeah, we're working on it. We're at script right now, and my wife is an incredible writer. She's actually in the Film Independent Fellowship. She's one of the 5 writers that got brought into that this year. Some really successful people have come out of that. So she's been working her butt off. She's got like 6 scripts now. This one actually has won awards in Virginia, which is where we want to shoot it because we are originally from Virginia. So we want to bring a film and a crew back to our hometown in Front Royal, Virginia. So that's kind of the next chapter for me as an actor and as a collaborator, because I think I realized on set, like acting is great. It's my first love, and I just relish in it. But the collaboration, because film is such a team sport, is really what brings me the joy. So, being part of, producing something and getting my team together and having what I love about film, there's so many different masters of their own domain. And it's like you get your team together and then they're the people that know how to do those specific skills. Like they know how to light that barn. They know how to pack up the truck. They know how to get the sound just right when there's a windstorm coming in. Like they are the masters of their own craft. And it's just like this ultimate team sport. And I think that's what really fires me up for the next chapter in my life.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, we really appreciate having you today. Is there anything you'd like to share about where people can find you, find more about you, follow along your journey?
Absolutely. I can only do so many social media platforms. There's too many at this point. I keep it simple. I'm on Instagram at Matt Drago, MattDrago. From there, you can find my link tree. It's got my website, mattdrago.com. It's got my production company website, Dragon Hunter Productions. It's got everything there. I'm posting updates for the film, where it can be seen, in addition to all of the future projects that I have going on. So give me a follow there and you'll be in the know for my career and, everything that follows.
I just wanted to say something. I'm having like a existential crisis of some sort because maybe I'm the worst kind of human being. I'm like analyzing you the whole time and I can't help it. I just do it. And you're so gentle, how you speak, everything you do, you're so gentle. And I'm like, your character is more sharp spoken, and I'm like, you're so California and your character is so New York. And then you're like, but I'm from New York. And I'm like, wait, are people from New York not that? Wait, what? He's New York and his character's California? What's happening now? I don't even know what's happening. Like, where am I?
That's a great observation. I mean, I honestly feel like this role in a way like softened my edge, because it allowed me to go there, and it allowed me to go into how we all do, fight for something sometimes, fight for something that we believe in. I mean, we're all fighting for something constantly in our life, right? And I feel like this gave me a full opportunity, an invitation to really fight for something and to be motivated to go after something. And I made sure that with Fabian that I wanted to make it clear that he's not just fighting for himself, he's fighting for everyone. He will go down with his own ship. Like he is that kind of person. That's the way I felt about him when I started doing the work on him, is that, as much as he may seem like he's, passionate, he's passionate for everybody. He stands by his actors. If something happens to his actors, it's happening to him. Like, he is responsible for everybody. And frankly, we need people like that on set, because sometimes somebody needs to speak up, right? And that's something that, we need that in the world,
yeah.
Right? So that was a really great observation, because I feel like it gave me the freedom to really kind of get that out a little bit more. And I feel like Matt's become a little bit more gentle from the therapy session that Fabian Verdugo gave me.
That's great. Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, Matt.
Appreciate you coming.
Oh, I really, honestly, thank you so much for having me on. This is a really wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you guys.
Our pleasure.
He was very adorable. I don't know why. I think from his character in the film, I was expecting him to be a little snooty. I don't know why.
It's called acting, Jacqueline.
Yeah, but his character in the film wasn't snooty. So I don't know why
he was warm.
was expecting that. Yeah, he was very warm. He was a lovey kind of guy. I could hang with him.
Yeah, I could hang out.
We could be his friend, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters in life.
I'm kind of dying to see Montana in person now, after just talking to him and watching his eyes light up about how beautiful it was. And yeah, I've never been. Have y'all been?
No.
Just driving through.
It's,
You don't seem excited.
Well, it feels very Wisconsin-y in my head. Okay. So it feels like, people go to, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. All the farmland and all the ranches and all,
the big sky.
So yeah, but I'm probably missing out on something amazing.
Mountains.
Yeah, we don't have that in Wisconsin. So yes, let's all go on location.
Okay.
Road trip.
I'll do it. I'll totally do it. I won't drive though, because no.
I can't drive. So Richard, it's on
you. Okay, well here we go. I guess it's me in Montana. Are there
do
wolves in Montana? Because that could at least be fun. Yeah.
Just me, baby. No, I think there are wolves there.
Fair enough.
So
I'm sorry that I'm like this.
It's okay.
If you weren't, we probably wouldn't be here.
That's true. That is
so
true.
There's that. All right. Anything else? Or are we out of here?
That's it. Just everybody love the people I love by subscribing and liking and following and sharing some more.
Yes, please. We love that for us and for you, because it helps the podcast grow.
True. All right.
And we'll grow with another episode next week. Bye.
Bye.
Wolf Media Festival Podcast with Kyle Hollingsworth, Richard Wilmore, and Jacqueline Wolfhart. Produced and edited by me. I'm Jacqueline Wolfhart. Don't forget to check out the links in the description to find ways you can connect with our guests. Thanks for checking us out today and tuning in every week wherever you get your podcasts.